Hey everybody, this is Alex.
This is Boschka. This is Fool's Odyssey, episode 53.
Yes, 53.
All right, and today we got a special guest, our first guest ever.
Yes, our first guest ever, and is a very important guest of ours. Our
Yep. Our father.
our mentor, our father, our work dad.
Our work dad. That's true.
So say hello to our manager of the podcast,
Woo!
our producer, Mr. Mark.
Whee!
Hey guys, how you doing?
Woo.
Okay, so Mark,
Yes.
give us a little introduction of yourself. Tell us who you are and what you're all about.
Oh, just an old guy with a bunch of experience and a lot of time on my hands to talk about stuff. You know, the usual thing.
See,
That kind of stuff.
See, the important part here is
I have
the,
those pearls of wisdom. It's old guy talk, right?
yeah,
Yes,
the
exactly.
experience here. This is what
Life
we're going to
experience.
flesh out.
Yeah, this is why I always come to you whenever I have questions. It's because you always have something to tell me, and it's like little nuggets of information.
Yeah, and
knowledge
the one
bombs,
thing that's the Mark's really good at is like he's good at motivating people.
I suppose.
Yeah, he's good at like planting the
I wouldn't
seed
say
and pushing
motivating.
people
I'm just
forward.
trying to protect you guys from doing dumb stuff like I did. That's all.
I mean, that's how we learn.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
how
learn from you.
Yeah, so we don't have to break our back doing it.
Exactly.
so-
Everyone stands back and goes, "Wow, that's stupid. Don't do that."
Right.
So we've known each other for 6 years.
Yeah.
Well, me and
Somewhere
you,
around there,
6
yeah.
years.
Yeah,
And
4
then
or
how
5
about
years for me.
4 or 5 years. So
Yeah.
can I ask you, what was your first initial impressions of us when
Yeah.
you saw us? I was curious to know.
I hate to say it, it's going to be a little tough to remember because I mean we've been through quite a lot of years, and a lot of stuff.
That's
Oh,
all
yeah.
right.
And I'm being honest. I mean,
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it's I'm trying to think back because
Yeah.
it's one of those things where when I first met you guys, is everybody's always enthusiastic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Woohoo!
That's right.
Get together and we met through work and when you meet through work and the first time everybody's trying to impress, it's kind of the honeymoon period or the first
Right.
date or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I mean, slowly personalities kind of came out here and there and whatnot.
Mhm.
I thought you guys were very nice people. I mean, nice. I hate to say it. I'm just information's sake. I am older than you guys, just in case your audience doesn't know. So it's one of those things. When I first met you guys, you're nice guys, nice young guys. Willing to work hard, willing to do stuff. Alex was a little tough to talk to because it's one of those things where you'd sit there and say hi, or you'd say, "Hey, what's going on?" And you go, "Nothing."
Yeah.
And then we kind of the conversation would just
That there.
and that's fine. You know what?
Yeah.
It's some people. That's just the way they are. It's the honeymoon period, right? Just takes a little time for everyone to get to know each other and find out what common ground you have, and what you can talk about or what you can't talk about. That kind of stuff like that.
That's right. That's right.
And Bosch, a little more talkative, a little more lively and whatnot. But you're kind of veiled. It's like you're,
Yeah. That's,
and I'm trying to explain it in the right way.
Mhm.
It's one of those things where you're a nice guy, you're friendly and cordial, talk, I'm not saying that you're over talkative, but you talk. But the thing is though, you get to a certain point in the relationship or conversation, whatever, and then it just kind of ends.
yeah.
It's one of those things where it's not that,
I don't go
you're
deep.
not open, but you're sort of private. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is my level of comfort level right here, what we can talk about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beyond that, that's it.
That summed me up really, really.
And that's fine. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? Everyone's got their thing, right?
Definitely.
But I find you and Boschka to be very similar in ideology and personality.
See, Alex said that a lot, but I myself don't really like.
Well, you guys are both like pragmatic and a little bit nihilistic in a way.
Well, I wouldn't say nihilistic.
I wouldn't say nihilistic either. Well,
I mean, pragmatism is something that I hate to say it. It's an older trait. So it's one of those things where usually that's gained from experience or
Right.
from things that have happened in the past that you're kind of
yeah, it comes from
it's
experience.
through hard lessons learned, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, you say pragmatic, I just say jaded. I mean,
See, jaded.
Well,
I'm
there's
kind of
that
like,
too.
well, I suppose.
at what point when you're working with us, where you're just like, okay, these guys have something going on. These guys are more than what I see.
Oh, that's got to be rough.
Well, I mean, I kind of thought, well, I always look at people for not what they do and what they are and from the visual. Everyone's got something going on, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
It's one of those things where, I mean, there's people that we work with that you look at. I know people that we work with that have degrees in science,
Yep.
in history,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't ask the questions or you don't know them that well, you're kind of like, okay, well, they're just the person that does whatever,
Yeah.
or they're just
True.
this guy, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things I kind of knew you guys kind of had something else going on because I mean everyone's got an interest and everybody is interesting, right? Despite what everyone says, oh, I don't know anything or hey, whatever. But that's the thing is everybody's got some other interest or something else going on, and I kind of thought that in right off, but like for Alex, because I worked with you a lot longer, I was looking at it because like I mean, you'd ask a lot of questions, there'd be a lot of queries about stuff, and I'm not saying that you'd be like, why is the sky blue or something silly like that, right? But interesting questions, right? Why is this or how come that? And I try to be informative or try to give you that
The
old guy
insight.
pearl of wisdom or whatever. But it's one of those things where after a while you sit there and you kind of think, I never asked, but I'm thinking in my head, well, why is he asking that? It's not a bad thing because it's one of those things where if he's asking about, then there must be either an interest or there's something that he's trying to learn from it or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I do tend to ask the weird.
That's the reason why.
Stuff.
Yeah, because there was a period in Alex's life that he just started asking weird question. Like, from my point of view, it feels like Alex is trying to. If I was the one who's doing it, I would doing it to to check someone's personality. Like, to how far would somebody bend? Like, why would somebody do something? Would somebody do something under like pressure or those kind of?
No, it's not like that. It's more jokey than anything.
See, that's the thing. Like for me, it comes off like, why is he trying to figure things out? Like, what is he gonna like play a death game with me or something like that? Like,
no, it's not that. It's just like like if I come up to one of you guys and be like, "Hey, is it weird if I farted in someone's face and just walked away?" And then Marco would just say something like, "Oh, that's because you ate too much broccoli or something."
And I'd be like, "The fuck is wrong with this dude?"
That's just me trying to be funny and just make a haha.
See, but
You
for
gotta
me,
have some lightheartedness. I mean, if you can't laugh, then why the hell are you here, right?
True. But that's the thing. Like, it seems like for me and Mark, we were like deep reading, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Like, did he actually do that?
What is this interest came from?
Oh, there's that too. But I mean, like I said, I've been around enough and worked around enough guys and whatnot where you can kind of see the humor that everybody contains.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where if somebody just that you didn't know walked up and said that to you, you're kind of like, okay, that's
weirdo.
Yeah, see,
maybe I shouldn't be standing downwind, okay, but that's about it,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, so
But I was just gonna say that's the thing about it is that it's if it's meant to be a joke, then it should be then it should be taken as one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But don't you think that's kind of like the weird thing about like nowadays?
Oh.
Things that's supposed to be a joke, kind of like people take seriously and take huge offense to. Right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's turning out that way. My era when I grew up, because I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, just
Right.
so everyone in your audience can kind of figure out an age group. And during that age group was, if you were doing work with somebody that was older, like most of the guys that I had worked with, and I worked in the construction field for a long period of time,
Right.
and most of the guys that I worked with were all, rough and tumble, hard drinking, that kind of thing. And it was like you had to harden up your feelings. So if somebody said something and, maybe it wasn't the kindest or nicest thing, well, you kind of just toughen up, buttercup, right? That kind of thing. Now everybody's just making it all personal and, how can they do it? I mean, there's a certain time and place.
Right. I guess the era changed and
It's one of those things, what I mean? There's a lot of, right now, there's a lot of cultural friction, a lot of race friction, that kind of stuff like that, and even religious friction. And I use friction as being a lighter
understatement
sort of term. It's one of those things where everybody's too busy to get into everybody else's business because they apparently have way too much spare time on their hands.
That's
right. So it's like, you know what? Stay in your own lane, mind your own damn business, and if I'm hanging out with you guys and, something said in between you and I, or, between the three of us, whoever's sitting beside us, if they happen to listen in and whatnot, and they're shocked or whatever, don't be.
Yeah, it's not.
If you're
their
not
business.
shocked, especially coming from one to another, then that person that's standing back as an outside observer shouldn't be the same thing, right?
Right.
And that's the way I grew up, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there was when I grew up, we had every flavor all the way through. I mean, where I went to school, there was Japanese, there was Chinese, there was Koreans, there was Vietnamese, there's Indians. What else? I mean, lots of Europeans, Germans, Hungarians, French. There was 2 Spanish people that were in my school.
Wow.
So everybody touched everybody's, culture and background
Right.
and whatnot. And I mean, when you're in school, a lot of guys you're friends with have different cultures and religious backgrounds and everything else like that, and you all know each other, especially if you're playing sports or whatever. Well, you kind of get used to it. And I mean, yeah, everybody would kind of grind on everybody else, right? It was part of the deal. Now, don't look at me because, how dare you say anything to me like
Right.
that, right? So, yeah.
So actually, I have like a question. Because earlier you said the cultural stuff that you had when you were growing up at school and whatnot, kind of thing. Like, I was thinking, do you think the internet, the exposure of internet, how easier people interact with one another, revealing I don't know, either information about one thing or one thing another, caused this friction to actually bigger than what it's supposed to be, or?
I think it actually drove a wedge between everybody, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
I mean, well, because it used to be, it used to be the big thing is that they said, that the internet, makes the world, smaller, right? The world is
Right.
no longer as large as it was. You didn't have to worry about, having to travel by aircraft or whatever to see somebody.
yeah.
I can just turn a computer screen on and boom, everybody's there, right?
Right.
It's no longer like when I was younger to get a cross Canada phone call, that was a big deal,
Oh,
right? It was as much
I
as
imagine, yeah.
it's one of those things to hear this kind of stuff, but it was a big deal to have. We had relatives that lived in Ontario, and to get a phone call from them, it was a costly thing as well. It was $1 a minute or whatever it was. So you kind of went along and, everybody got to say hi in 10 seconds or less, because if you were over 5 minutes, holy geez, that was a
Yeah.
lot of money, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now everybody can go through, and the part that I feel is kind of a little bit tough these days is the fact that because now everybody takes it for granted, it's easy to do, right? Oh, look at those guys over there. Oh, look at that's what's happening over there, and because the thing is nobody's really I know because of the pandemic and what's happened for the last couple of years, but before that, because nobody had a need to travel, because I can turn on the internet and talk to somebody across the world, or I can go see whatever. If you don't have that interaction, personal, and get into the actual cultural, religious backgrounds of wherever it is, you don't know. You don't have that experience, right? So then everybody gets all kind of bent out of shape. Well, how come they're doing that? And why is it this?
That's right.
Well, that's because their thing. And it's and like I said, if everybody would just stay in their own lane,
Would have been. Would work out perfectly. See, I completely agree with this line of thought. Just mind your.
But
Yeah.
there's more positives to that than there are negatives, right? Like now we're more exposed to other cultures, we're exposed to the foods, the language, the music, everything, right? And now we're able to see, oh, now this guy's going to here. I want to travel there because I see the pictures and I want to go there now.
But
right?
for me, I think personally, the thing is, people are more affected by negative than positive. I know that what you said just now was it was a good positive thing, but even if there's let's just say 50-50 of the positive and negative, just by the negative, people will be more attracted to the negative and felt like it's a bigger deal than the positive, don't you think?
I don't think so. I think people are more vocal about being negative than they are about positive. Right? Would you agree with that, Mark? People are more vocal and outspoken about all the bad things than they would be about the positive things.
well, I think you have more exposure now, right? And it's all instant. I mean, and I hate to say it, I don't know a lot of the platforms that are out there, because I mean these for bad choice of words, instant chat platforms that are out there are changing literally month to month. But when you can sit there and go along and throw a message on Twitter from one person to another,
Right.
Oh, did you see that? Or hey, why are they doing that? Or that person is whatever. It's more direct, right?
Right.
You're not as insulated.
Yeah.
I mean, myself, I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have a Twitter account.
Neither do I.
It's one of those things where I don't need it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I want to talk to somebody, I'll and not so much now, of
Yeah.
course, but before was if I need to talk to somebody, I just go talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I've got friends in a lot of places around the world, and yeah, we talk via Skype. So it's one of those things. But now, then, as you said, the negatives are they're just instantaneous, and because now it's more far-reaching, and you can expose a bigger audience to it instead of somebody going along and coming to that person directly saying, "Hey, why did you say that?" or "Hey, why did you do that?" or "Hey, this is what I think about you." Now you can sit there and you can sort of shame them en masse,
Yeah.
which is a bad thing, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's one of those things where the best advice I was ever given was by an older Chinese fella that I worked with, and he was surprised that I could eat with chopsticks. I was a young man then. I was in my very early 20s. And he goes, "Oh, you can eat with chopsticks?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, how'd you learn?" I said, "Well, my mom and dad, they're both Caucasian, and European. So, but my parents always exposed us to different cultures. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, whatever it was in the community we lived in, you got exposed to it." And this older Chinese fella said, he says, "You know what?" He says, "It's good that you like to sit there and eat traditionally and eat traditional foods." He says, "That'll take you a long way when you go and travel and do other things."
Yeah.
And it has. If you sit there and you go, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life was I think it was my second trip into Japan, and we landed at Narita Airport, and we had to wait for a shuttle to take us from the airport to the hotel, and it's an overnight flight, very long. And we got there in the afternoon, and I was hungry, so we went along and we're walking around. There's me and another person. We're walking around, and we're trying to figure out what to eat. And they have all the American foods like Wendy's and McDonald's and all this other stuff like that. And we're walking past McDonald's, and we're standing there, and this. I don't like to use cultural. Let's just say that they're more southern neighbors of us. They had walked through and they were looking around and go, "Oh, let's eat at McDonald's because it should be just like at home."
Right. Like, why? You went all the way there. Why?
Well, that's it. We just spent, about 12 and a half hours in a sardine can altogether, breathing recycled air and, that kind of thing. And then I land in a foreign land to go experience exactly what I can get at home.
My mom's like that too. I think because the first thing she would want is Chinese food. So we can probably fly to Italy, and the first thing she'd be like, "I want Chinese food." So it's like kind of weird.
But
it's more about familiarity, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of unfortunate though.
But the thing is, well, to be fair though, every McDonald's in every country is different. They always have something different there.
Well, cheeseburger is a cheeseburger. I mean, I don't know what you're gonna say.
I want a McMochi.
What, can you go like a McSushi or something? Like, I don't think that
well,
works. You know what I mean?
I was in Hong Kong, and they actually had a hamburger that had rice, like a crispy rice patties for the actual buns.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So instead of it's like a fried rice, but it's like kind of puffy kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I had one of those because I thought, okay, well, I'm never going to get it anywhere else, and I get that. I do, trying something different. Like you just go along there. Oh, they have, like if you go to Starbucks in Osaka, they actually have a matcha latte. That's where it first came from. Was a matcha latte. The first time I ever had one was probably now almost 15, maybe longer years ago.
Wow.
You never had one of those.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll go and try one, right? But to sit there and go along and say, oh, I'm going to go, it's like I had a friend of mine. He took his kids over to do a cruise in the Mediterranean. They went to Italy, but they also took some side tours and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So when they came back, I was talking to his son. And his son at the time was, I think, about 12 or 13 and whatnot. And they were talking about Italy and whatnot. And then all of a sudden said, "I can't believe it. Italians, you go there and you get, where they have it for pizza, you get a piece of dough that's baked with some sauce and some cheese on it."
I mean, that is what a pizza is.
Well, that's the thing, is that what people tend to forget is pizza is a poor person's food. That's what the poor used to eat because that's all you had. You had some bread,
Yeah.
you had some tomatoes, so you crushed it down, and if you had cheese, the only reason you had cheese is because you had a cow or a goat
That's
or
right,
a
goat,
sheep
yeah.
or something like that, and that's it. All this extra stuff that they put on now.
And that was just
That's American.
No.
That's American
Well,
idea, right?
it's American, but that's what rich to put meat on pizza at that time when it was first made in the old days. You had to be pretty wealthy to have it because for you to slaughter an animal,
that
was taking something out of your it was
That's
it was
right.
either pulling milk production out or something that
Yep,
wasn't doing
or a
something
wool
right.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you go all the way over to another country and then you have these grand expectations that everything should be the same as what you have at home, well, I can save you the $1,300 in the airfare to go and buy you some Pizza Hut, okay?
Yeah.
Well, because you traveled like pretty much all over the world,
Yeah.
Mark. What's your favorite like authentic food that you've had that you've eaten?
Well, I haven't traveled over. Haven't been to Europe.
Mhm.
My wife's been to Europe. My wife's been to 4 countries in Europe. I haven't been, and I haven't been to Africa. And I hate to say it, I don't really want to go.
Okay.
But when you say authentic, what do you mean? Like if I was eating it here and then went over.
There, like sushi here and sushi in Japan.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing?
exactly,
Like, what-
exactly. Yeah, yeah, like, kind of like that.
I would say, well, yeah, sushi in Japan is a lot different.
How so?
It's the pieces are a lot smaller. First of all, like the nigiri, like the actual pieces of fish. I mean, when you go here, I mean, everybody's into
Everybody's
volume,
in
right? It's,
jumbo.
how much
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
push down
Jumbo size.
for
Giant
right.
toys
for
here,
$6.99?
Yeah.
But the pieces, instead of being, usually the pieces here, like if you get a salmon nigiri, it's about, I don't know, I think it's like $2.50 or something. So first of all, the rice is different because they don't season the rice here. They just mash up some rice and put it on there. Usually rice, when they have it in the proper way of doing it, is you actually put rice wine vinegar and
Yes,
some
vinegar.
sake and some mirin in it, and you mix it up, and then that's what you get.
I didn't know mirin.
So it's different. So the rice actually has some taste when you're eating. And I mean, if you went downtown to go to some of the restaurants that are the better restaurants where you're paying a very good dollar for it,
Right.
the sushi would actually taste more authentic there. But in general, like I said, everybody goes along and does it like that. The fish size, going back to that, the fish size is huge. I mean, you're getting probably about 1 inch wide by probably about maybe 3 inches long for a piece of fish. If you're in Japan, the fish actually fits physically on the actual piece. So whatever size you get for a piece of nigiri, that's the size right there.
I see.
That sort of thing. So it's, like I said, there's some, you have to eat authentic food in your own town or your own city. You actually probably have to pay a lot more for it because
I see.
it's I've had pizza downtown at one of the Italian restaurants, and I had a margarita pizza. And margarita pizza is basically just bread sauce, some cheese, and some basil, and that's it, right? But it's very good. It's very thin crust. It's the bread tastes the actual crust tastes very good. The toppings are all there and whatnot, but you're paying $25 for it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Right.
I see.
As opposed to phoning up Domino's and then right.
Yeah.
Today was 50% day. I could get a full loaded Domino's and large pizza for $10, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what are you getting, right? It's like anything. The same thing going to China.
Yeah.
Going to northern China. There's not a whole lot of northern Chinese restaurants in local. Because a lot of the Chinese food is mainly Cantonese that you're getting, or some form thereof. So when you're eating northern Chinese food, it's a lot more heavy. They eat a lot more beef. South is more pork. There's a lot more beef. They use a lot more like beef fat and well they have pork there too, but they use a lot of beef fat and pork fat
For
like
the
lard
stock kind of
to
thing,
cook
or?
with,
Yeah.
as opposed to oil. So it's a lot more heavier, and the spices are different and whatnot. So like I said, if you go into, I mean, it's not like going to a PF Chang's where you sit there and you get breaded lemon chicken,
Compound chicken.
that kind of thing, some sort of fried rice kind of thing, right?
Right.
I would probably say, if you're asking about authenticity, I'd probably say that it would probably be, I'd probably say China and Hong Kong and Macau, like those. Well, because at one time Hong Kong and Macau used to be their own, right? So I have to sort of separate them off because I've been there before and after they were assimilated.
Choice of word. I like that.
Yeah.
So I've eaten in each of those three. I mean, like the three countries at the time, and then the regions again. So I'd probably say China would probably be the more authentic food. Don't get me wrong. Like I've been to Japan, I've been to Korea. You know, there's a little bit of watered down stuff where you like wherever you live
Right.
for whatever nationality. I think the one place I would like to go to get authentic food would probably be India.
I agree.
Oh yeah, there's like the spices on that
Yeah,
stuff.
the
It's
spice of
way
the place is
different,
gonna be like
Well, that's the other thing is there's a lot of things that they can't grow here or they
Right.
can't import here that
right.
that are
It'll
different.
cost a
And,
lot more.
like if you look at Indian cuisine in general, if you've ever sit there and seen a show where they actually show the not somebody that's North Americanized or you know kind of dumbed it down
Yeah.
for the North American diet, but if you see somebody that's cooking actual Indian food and whatnot, holy Jesus! I mean, I don't. No wonder. No knock to anybody else, but no wonder they're smart because you have to have a pretty bloody good memory. Because if you look at all the stuff they have, they got 25 different ingredients,
The
and that's
amount of
just for the
spices
sauce.
they blended and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and it all tastes really good. So,
Yeah.
Well, that's it, and that's there again. We're talking about diversity of you know of liking and whatnot. If you don't try it,
Yeah.
how do you
you'll
know
never
you're
find
not
out.
going to like it, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
But,
so
you
being
know-
open-minded is really important to all of this, eh?
yeah, for sure.
Just about stuff in general. Though, Mark, I got a
Yes.
question. So you travel a lot. So probably most of your area of operation is like around Asia, or
Yeah, where exactly have you
Yeah.
been to?
Well, Mexico, United States, Canada, Korea, Japan, China, a couple other places that I'd rather not talk about. But yeah, been around a couple places here and there.
Okay, and what's the next stop for you?
yeah,
After it's all said and done, after all this silliness goes away,
that's right.
probably Japan.
Let's go together.
Yeah.
Well,
Japan is-
We've been
I-
planning to go the whole time.
Sorry, I'm kind of cutting you guys off there.
That's all right.
No, we're saying you have to go with us. You're pretty
Yeah.
much our manager, so you have
Pretty
to
much,
manage
yeah.
our
Yeah,
schedule.
you're gonna show us the good places and
You can
whatnot.
do a podcast from Osaka and
Definitely.
Tokyo.
Yeah,
then.
exactly. Yeah, we do
Yeah. No, I would say Japan because it's the Japanese. I've traveled there a number of times and I've always found it very safe, very clean.
That's
it's-
important.
It's one of those things where, you know, I was in Hong Kong about 4 or 5 years ago,
Mhm.
and usually when I go, I always stay in the New Territories. And so not Hong Kong Island itself, but New Territories, but in the I guess it'd be classified in the southern part of New Territories. So when you stay there, there's a lot of shopping centers and a lot of other things around there. I mean, Hong Kong's just basically the lower part is just one big shopping mall, for a bad choice of words. But when you get further out, yeah, I've been in locations where you look around and I'm the only white guy around for miles.
They probably look at you and you're like, woo.
Well, I mean, there's don't forget. I mean, Hong Kong for the longest time was a British protectorate, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's going to be people there all over the place. But it was one of those things where I didn't feel. It's not that I didn't feel unsafe, but it's one of those things where I was like, you know, I don't think I should be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know what you
Definitely.
mean.
But in Japan,
Mhm.
like my wife and I,
Mhm.
we walked in, and I can't tell you which time it was, but we were walking around and whatnot, and we went for a late dinner, and then we went for a drink, and I think when we finally were walking back to the hotel, it was a Wednesday night, and I think it was like 11:30 or 12 o'clock, and you're walking around, and in certain areas in Tokyo where when stuff shuts down, it just shuts down. That's it. I mean, there's lots of lights and everything around because there's a lot of street lights and building lights and billboard lights and everything else. So it's kind of flashy. But the people just sort of like, okay, well, we're leaving.
Just
That's it.
gone.
And yeah, well, there's certain areas when we were walking in the area where you had to walk down was, I don't want to say it was like an alley. It was, but it was like a 2-lane small road that you had to walk down to get to the hotel because we were sort of, instead of going around the long way, you kind of cut through this short way.
Right.
And there was no fear or anything else like that somebody's going to jump out and, you know, hey, give me your wallet and watch or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly, yeah. Very
That's-
rare. Very rare for stuff like that to happen.
That's very like reassuring. That's
It seems like your kind of
It's-
people, Bosch.
because I personally don't. I rarely, almost never really like travel outside the place. Right.
Yeah.
Like from all this conversation, I never really thought of like the safety issues and whatever. It never crossed my mind until you actually
Oh.
mentioned it. And I'm like, oh,
See. Okay.
now that you mention it, I guess it is an important thing. So you travel a lot to Japan, right? So
I wouldn't
what's
say a lot, but I've traveled a number of times.
probably. So what's your main, what do you call it? Like main, I don't want to say reason, like main.
Why am I going?
Kind of like what's the
What
like what are
drew
you
you in?
aiming to get there? Like, do you go for the food? Do you go for the onsen? Do you go for the?
It's a lot of everything. As much as I hate to say, it's for the whole experience. I mean, it's funny because everyone likes the. And I was talking to a gentleman a couple days ago, and we were talking about traveling one, and I says I had been to Tokyo, and he was kind of like, "Oh, what's it like?" And I said, "Well, it's very big." And he goes, "Oh," he says, "I'd like to go there, but the thing is, everyone goes, I want to go to Tokyo," but I always say to him, "Where?" And everyone goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said,
Tokyo is
it's very big. I think there's 17 million people there
Yeah.
in the city of Tokyo.
Yeah.
That's more than half the, well, it's less than half the population of our country. Okay,
Yeah.
so
That's a
you got
big
them all
difference.
crowded into
Yeah.
one area. That's probably, I don't know,
Way
I'd
small.
probably say half the size of maybe Ireland.
Yeah,
get 'em in.
that sounds about right.
Well, yeah. If you go
Yeah.
there, everything is vertical.
Yeah.
They don't build horizontal, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you're going there, there'll be you walk
be
in
looking
certain
up.
areas, there's just buildings, and they're
Yeah.
all 25, 35, 40 stories high, right?
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that there's not really an area where you sit there and go. You have to go to a certain area, and I mean, I know you know the certain areas and whatnot, but like you asked me, what do I go for? I try to go for everything. I mean,
Right.
their love of anime and toys and everything else like that is just crazy. It is. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, that's kind of neat. I mean, I don't know very much about the anime stuff or the Gundam stuff and whatnot, but I think it's interesting. The culture, the fact that, they've been basically isolated. Well, they were isolated up until the 1860s when the Americans came in. And that's not a shot at any other culture. It's just that they were closed all the way through there and then gradually they opened in. So, and they haven't been invaded by anybody. So the culture has been stayed in that manner all the way through. So they have a lot of history. And I don't want to get into politics or anything or, any of that kind of stuff, but it's one of those things where their culture has stayed more or less the same.
Yeah.
So you're getting a true taste of what their
is,
culture
yeah.
and their country is like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of neat. And then you said like going to an onsen, which is a hot spring.
Yeah.
It's really cool. They got a lot of really great onsens. I've been to a couple out there. That kind of thing. So it's not one of those things where, I'm going for food.
Yeah, just food.
Okay,
No.
Great. So you can eat,
and then go home.
gas station sushi at home too if you really want to.
True.
But their gas station sushi is
Exactly.
a lot better
It's
than ours.
I don't know about that. We've never been.
Oh, it
there,
is.
so- okay,
is.
there you go.
You want to, the funny part is when usually they, for such a modern society, and I don't mean to sit there and dominate the conversation or this topic about Japan, but just going through it is they don't, how can I put it? When they travel between town to town, so if you're going, say going from Tokyo and you're driving, say, to Nara, they'll take a bus.
Right.
And I'm going to say probably 80% of the people will take the bus.
Right.
Some people will take the Shinkansen high-speed rail, or some people will take a train, but 80% of the people will get on a bus.
Oh.
And you figure, well, such a high-tech place,
Yeah.
they should be, high-speed rail and all. No, it's all. I've taken a lot of buses all the way through there, and where I'm going with this is that they have great big tourist stops. So they got like sort of like a gas station, but like a rest stop. But they got like 4 restaurants, and then they always have sort of like a some sort of feature, whether it's historical, saying this area was this, or this is the town of that has this, that kind of thing. And their food that they have there is fantastic.
I see.
It's not like going to Greasy Spoon McDonald's kind of stuff. No.
So it's an actual
It's
quality.
actually pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like especially if there's 7-Elevens,
Right.
theirs is actually convenient. Here is like $5 for one banana. But those they got like all sorts of
Like
different
actually
stuff.
convenient,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
7-Eleven, you could actually have a meal out of 7-Eleven. They actually have like a bento box you can buy that's already preheated.
Oh no.
Costs you maybe about 900 yen, and it's like a legitimate meal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
People love going to 7-Eleven. They're like, here we can't just go there just because there's nothing else. Because it's open 7-Eleven.
Go for the chicken ones, but stay for the Slurpee.
The
Very
Slurpee,
much,
that's
yeah.
right.
Oh, they don't have Slurpees in 7-Elevens in Japan, do they?
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they have Slurpees. I know they don't have Slurpees at the 7-Elevens in Hong Kong. I know that.
Wow, I guess they just don't like syrup water.
I don't know if
I think
that's
it's just a difference of culture, right?
Yeah.
If you never had it in there, then you don't. I mean, it's funny because you can get canned coffee
yeah.
in Japan, right? I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it here too, but you get hot canned coffee in Japan and well in Hong Kong too.
That's
And
what
you sit
blew
there
my
and look at it
mind.
and go, why would I want a can of coffee? That makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there, that's part of the norm, and
Yeah.
you know, that's what makes it different, right?
Yeah. It's all about convenience in other places, right?
I have this
Well-
weird craving to go to Japan.
It is loads of fun. That's all I can
Yeah,
say. But
I know.
it's one of those things where you kind of have to have if you're going wherever you're going, have a plan out to sit there and
Definitely.
and kind of know what you want to do as opposed to saying, well, I'm just going to go and
Oh,
because there's a lot of stuff to see and a lot of things to do.
for
and,
me, I'm
and
probably going to be like Akihabara most of my time there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
a bunch of
And then
nerds.
probably go to Osaka for the foods and the fun times.
Yeah.
Osaka is great. I mean, and like I said, I don't want to dominate this conversation with Japan, but
Hey, I'm enjoying it.
Osaka is great because it's actually they call it their food capital, right?
Right,
That's actually
yeah.
where I had fugu, the puffer fish.
Right.
That's where I had it, and it was one of those things we were actually on a tour, and it was like a mixed tour. There was a bunch of Asian people, and then there were a couple of white people here, and me and another fellow went. And when they went there, a lot of people said, well, we're gonna go eat sukiyaki,
Ooh.
and I'm like, why? They're like, well, it's authentic, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, sukiyaki is basically just it's not to
Eating
take away
alcohol.
kind of
Not to
it's
take away any
basically
credit,
Chinese
but-
fondue.
It's fun, dude.
Yeah.
It is.
It
It's a big pot of soup that you dump stuff in,
Yeah.
and you cook it, and then you put it into a bowl and you eat it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You can do that at home, but I've never seen anywhere in North America where they can sit there and say, "Hey, I've seen frozen fugu, which is the poisonous pufferfish,
Right. Yeah.
but I've never seen fresh fugu, and that's what we had. We had fresh fugu, and it was not. I think at the time when we went, I think for two of us, me and another fellow, all in, and the nice part about it, you don't have to tip there, which is a real great thing.
Yeah.
But I think all in was about $136.
Right. Wow.
And a lot of people sit there, oh my God, that's a lot of money. You're right, it is a lot of money. But there again, if you're going somewhere to experience something,
Yeah.
and you may not go back again, or it may not be available anymore,
Yeah,
or that
yeah,
kind of
that's
stuff.
right.
If you can afford it, go for it.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
And again in Japan, there's a fish market there called Tsukiji Fish Market. It's not there anymore. They moved the fish market to another location because the property value is so high on the waterfront. So they decided, well, we'll move it to another place. It's not there anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
So when my wife went to go to Japan and she ate at the fish market, she ate at the new one. I haven't eaten at the new one yet, but she went to eat at the new one. I've eaten at the old one twice. So yeah, go out and experience this. Like I said, if you can, swing it, money wise or time wise or whatever it is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where in the world.
Yeah.
Just going back in a little bit of history, my aunt, who's half Italian,
Yeah.
when she went to Italy, and that was in the 80s. I think that was in mid 80s. When she went, you could still walk up to the Tower of Pisa and walk through it. You couldn't walk up it, but you could walk underneath it, right?
Oh.
Now when you go
Of
there,
course not.
it's all cordoned off.
Yeah.
You can't get anywhere close to it. You can't
Definitely.
touch it.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I mean, that's what I mean, is that if you're going and you're traveling and whatnot, and
Yeah.
you want to experience stuff,
Do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta
Wow.
do it.
That puts stuff in perspective. Really, like every moment really matters when you get the
Well, it's
chance.
true.
Go for it.
and
That is
it's the same thing in your own
Gosh.
backyard, right? I mean, there's certain things in your own backyard, wherever you live,
Mhm.
you never take it for granted. It's one of those things where where we live, they actually had a Da Vinci art tour, and it was I don't know if you want me to say the name of the city or not, but it was on the island,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And when I went over there, and they had a lot of his drawings and some artwork and some of the models not his model, but they
Yeah.
redid a lot of the models and whatnot. And it was pretty fascinating stuff. And they'd actually moved it. They said they were doing one tour
Mhm.
of all the stuff, and then we'd go back to wherever it was coming out of. And I don't know the name of the museum where stuff was coming. I know some of the stuff came out of. They said that some stuff came out of the Vatican. I think there was some stuff out of the Louvre and a couple other places where they grouped it all together and they did a Da Vinci tour.
Oh.
Wow.
I've never seen it since, never heard of it since,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, if you didn't see it and you were interested in it, well,
Tough luck.
too bad, so sad, right?
Yeah.
You gotta seize the moment, Boschka. Seize the
That's
moment.
true. That's true.
So
I mean, look, just going back to how long we've known each other. I
Yeah.
mean, it may seem, working and every job is like that where you sit there and go along and you're like, get up and do this, or, oh, hey, I'm doing this again or whatever.
Yeah.
But we've known each other for what, 6 years?
Yeah.
4 years. Yeah.
There you go. That's gone by pretty fast.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
too fast, actually.
Too fast, actually.
It's true. I hate to say it. When you get older, time goes by a whole lot faster than you notice.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's the thing is that, if you don't sit there and go along and do the things you want to do now, there may not be a lot of time left. I remember I was reading Gary Vaynerchuk. He's got a couple of books and whatnot. I was reading some of the stuff that he wrote, and he said, if you want to go see what regret looks like, go to an old age home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole big building full of regret right there
Yeah.
about all the people that, I should have did this, but I can't, and there's that sort of thing. I know my wife and I, and like I said, I'm not here to dominate the conversation, and I apologize.
Hey,
No,
no.
this
This is what we're aiming for.
this
Actually,
episode's about you, so this is great that you're
Yeah.
talking. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my wife and I first got married, and we went on our honeymoon. And we went on a cruise in the Caribbean.
That's right.
And we'd never been on a cruise before. We've heard people talk about it and say, and it's true. Everybody goes for the food, and you gain lots of weight, but you see some stuff here and there and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we were our first our separation point for port was wasn't Miami. Yeah, maybe it was. I think it was Miami. So we're sitting around in this area where they had all these people getting together, and they came out of the airport. And there was her and I and 4 or 5 other couples, and there was an older couple there, and older American guy. He was a welder. He had just retired. He turned 65. He was actually going to be 66 after the cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his wife, and he's sitting there, and I'm not knocking people, but he's a little round, a little wide in the hips and whatnot. And his wife was, same sort of thing and whatnot. It's all part of aging. It's the way it is, right? But he was sitting there, and he's like, yeah, retired, gonna take my little lady out. We're going for a cruise.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fine. We were sitting there talking and whatnot. And so we go on the cruise and whatnot, and they were having trouble walking some of the stairs, so they took elevators and whatnot. But where we noticed it was we were in Jamaica, and there's a town called Ocho Rios, and it's a big kind of touristy trap. But they have this, I forget what it's called. It's a waterfall, but it's like a stepped waterfall. So it's it steps down 11 times, and then it flows out to the ocean, right? And you go there, and what you can do is you can walk the waterfall, and they got some whatever the native fish in there. They kind of swim around and walk the waterfall. They couldn't do it. They couldn't walk it. They didn't like the heat because it was like about 90 plus, and it's 100% humidity, right? Couldn't do the heat and whatnot. I felt bad for them because here they are. They paid all this money to go and see this stuff, and you can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. It's a good example. It's in Hong Kong when you go to I think it's called Lantau Island. There's a big Buddha on top of it. It's a really tall Buddha. I think it's 80, 90 feet. And I'm sorry if I don't remember, and if somebody else can, correct me on that, I appreciate it. But it's very, very big, and it's very noticeable. But to get up to it, there's, I'm trying to remember because the guy I was with, he was counting stairs. He said it's like 260 some odd stairs. And it's not like the stairs in North America, where you get that certain slope where you walk up. Oh, no. These are like, it's like a 45-degree angle where you're walking up.
Yeah, and they're like uneven too.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I was amazed. There was young girls there wearing high heels doing it. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
But I looked and I thought, if you're of any age where you have difficulty from mobility, you're stuck. You're just standing at the back looking at stuff, right?
Yeah. Exactly. You're done.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's true. It's like where we live. There's a lot of mountains around here, and there's a lot of trails and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you have any mobility issues,
you can't enjoy it.
So sorry.
Yeah, that's that put perspective in life. I'm like, holy crap.
So, Mark, since we're talking about regrets, what is your biggest regret?
Oh no.
How many regrets do you have?
Yeah, there was I worked for, like I said, I work construction,
Right.
and I was I went along and I worked for this they're a worldwide sized construction firm. They're in a lot of places around the world.
Right.
And I had a decent position with them. I was a supervisor of a very large region.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, unfortunately, with them, to become a manager, you had to have an engineering degree. I don't have one. But I was a supervisor, and unfortunately, I was in that glass ceiling kind of place
Yeah.
where I was about where I was going to be. I was getting paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
I had my own office. I had a secretary. I had a pickup truck that I drove around.
Ooh.
Got paid very well. Got to travel a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where after a while, I was like, it was a little, it's after a while doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Not that you guys would know about that, but it was one of those things where I'm like, maybe I should try something else.
Yeah.
And I did. And it's one of those things where it wasn't the right fit for me, so I moved on to other things.
Right.
That might be a minor regret. And the only reason I say minor is because if I didn't move from there, I mean, I could have stayed there. If I would have stayed there to this day,
Yeah.
let's see, we're 221 right now. I would have been there for 34 years.
Holy crap.
So was it, like I said, was it the right move? Yeah. I mean, if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have been able to work in certain places around the world.
Right.
Right. I had beyond that, then I wouldn't be able to meet you guys, right, and do this podcast. So
oh yeah, definitely.
It's one of those things where, in hindsight, when you're looking at it in the first, like if you do something that's a dramatic change, like say, for instance, say either one or both of you sit there and say, you know what, wherever we're working, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I don't want to do it. And then you kind of maybe 6 months down the road, go, oh, what did I do? Why did I do that? I had this and I had that, and I could have done this and I could have done this and I could have had that.
Yeah.
Sure, but at the same time, if you don't change, you don't grow, which means
stale.
Then we go back to the whole argument of why people are the way they are, because people keep doing the same thing over and over again, and the definition of insanity, right?
Here we go.
It's true.
Fast.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like,
true.
but where that's like I said, a regret. The thing that would be a regret for me is not being able to grow or change or do different things.
Right.
That would be probably a very big regret. And like I said, could I have been something else? Absolutely. Could I have made more money? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could I have done more or met more people or whatever? Absolutely. But if there's an old statement that says, if you're looking in the rearview mirror while driving through life, you're going to run into something you don't like.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's one. Do I regret? Yeah. Every once in a while, I sit there and go and think, you know what? If I would have done that, it could have been this.
That's a really good saying, by the way.
Oh, it's true though, right?
Yeah, no, it is very true. That's why I'm like, wow. Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's funny how that works because it's just so easy to say stuff in hindsight, but as you said, right, without doing all those changes that we took the path that we did now, we wouldn't be here where we are, right? We learned and changed from that stuff, right?
Absolutely. I think, was it Michael Jordan said you always miss 100% of the shots you don't.
No, it was Wayne Gretzky.
Is that Wayne Gretzky? I honestly, I don't know. I heard the quote, and I heard somebody say Michael Jordan. So I'm glad you corrected me on that. But it's true though. If you don't take a shot, then you'll never know.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody tends to look on the negative side. Oh yeah, I did this, and look what happened. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, it's like trying to hit a nail into a board.
Yeah.
After you hit yourself in the thumb 4 or 5 times, you figure out that maybe the nail head's a better place to put the hammerhead, right?
Exactly.
Because whatever happens, you came out wiser, right? So
absolutely.
And it goes back to me saying it's a vocal minority that always talk about the negative stuff. It's very rare that someone says about the positive stuff,
Well, sometimes when they do, people think they're fake. That's the sad part, right?
It's like, you're being egotistical. You're bragging. You're doing this. You're doing that. No, it's just them sharing their stories.
Sharing the joy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is that if you go along and you don't experience stuff, how do you know, right?
That's true.
Like I said, I've been lucky enough to do a lot of things in my life and see a lot of things and be a lot of places and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big picture taker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big picture taker.
Mm.
So I'll take certain pictures here and there and whatnot, and that's about it. But I'm not one of those people that sit there and go along, oh, I'm eating a Big Mac, click. Oh, look, I walked 2 steps, click. There's a door, click.
Right.
That kind of stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't diary my life like that.
Right,
if
right,
I see something that's really,
Yeah.
fantastic or great or something like that,
Definitely.
then yeah, maybe I'll take a picture of it. But nowadays, everybody's like, well, if you don't have the proof of the photo, then how do you know that person did it?
Yeah.
Who cares? I saw it. I felt it.
Exactly. That's for me.
Yeah.
That's a me thing.
Well, but that's the thing I don't get is that, what, it comes down to, then it comes down to a trust thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if and I get it. Some people, they embellish stuff here and there and they like to talk about certain things. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. But there again, if it breaks sort of the golden rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
You treat people like you want to be treated, meaning that if you want to be honest and you want them to be honest, well, then it has to be, an amicable deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, like what you're saying to either, right? Like, well, about the trust thing, whatever. It kind of comes across to as like people trying to prove themselves a lot by doing all this, like taking picture and all the stuff like that. Don't you think? Like for me, I don't know. It's just like if it's something that you enjoy and you just shouldn't you should be content with it?
Well, I agree, but I think, like I said, it goes back to being social media to death, right? Everybody wants to take a picture of everything they do, and like I said, and then it's now an rule that if you don't take pictures of it, well, then you either didn't do it or you're just making it all up.
Yeah. Well, but on the other side of that though is like for me, I wish I've taken more pictures because I want to look back on those memories, right? Because on my funeral or something, there's only gonna be that one picture of me in high school or something. I want to be able to have a collage or like a photo book, a memory book for not just for me, but like to share with friends or family. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, but it's that would be your own method of doing things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It shouldn't be
Everyone's
a society-driven
Yeah.
thing where it says, "Oh, well, if you didn't take a picture of it, then you didn't do it."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's what
It's
I
not-
agree on. Yeah.
Show me where that rule is, because I'll be happy to follow it if it's out there.
Yeah. Okay, Mike. So we're coming up near the end of the podcast, but I just want to ask you, since you're an avid listener of our podcast,
I am.
I was wondering, what is your honest thoughts of what we're doing?
Yeah, and how do you think we can improve?
Yes. Because I remember coming up to you for the first time, like, hey, Mark, I was thinking of starting a podcast, and you're like one of the only people I've told
Probably
at that
the
time.
only.
Yeah, and then you're like really encouraging, right? Yeah. So, how do you think we've grown? Because we've been doing this for like about a year now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've grown a lot. I mean, I listened to the conversation. Your MCU podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I sit there and I listened to some of it, I hate to say it, I've listened to it, and I mean, you guys are going in depth, really in depth into the, why is this and how is that and what's the substantialism of it and everything else like that. And I'm just like, it's a movie. and don't get me wrong, it's great to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys are, I think, for your podcast, I think you've grown quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the editing is great. I mean, like I said, except for this one, it'll be a lot of stuff you're gonna have to cut out.
No, that's okay.
I don't think
so.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, it's gotten better and better. The quality has gotten better. The production level's gotten better. I mean, the topics, like I said, you guys are talking about a lot more variegated topics here and there and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do better? Just keep hitting subjects up, right?
Just broaden
that
our
are
horizon,
interesting to you guys as well, but also to the people that are listening, right? Talk about things. I mean, like I said, the movie ones are great. But I mean, as much I hate to say, you're going to be running out of topics pretty quick.
We did.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Unless you saw the Shang-Chi movie, then I mean, there's another one out there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what I'm saying is, go with topics that you like,
or
topics that that you're interested in. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you have to agree on. Oh, this is the topic.
Yeah.
It should be a conversation, not a debate.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't be something that you both know, because how do you grow if you don't learn, right?
That's right. I agree. I wholeheartally agree with that. Amen to that.
It's true.
Well, Bashko always says that you're not human when you stop learning or something like that, right?
Well, yeah. It's not what I said. It's what my grandpa said. The moment you stop learning.
Isn't that a bit harsh to say?
Not really. Why would it be harsh? Because as a human, every step you take is a learning experience, right?
Absolutely. to sit there and not learn. I mean, you listen to all the whether they're philosophical thinkers, even like the certain people that are out there, that are the uber wealthy people, like whether it's Bill Gates or all these guys or the motivational speakers that are out there, or all these people, like I said, the philosophical people that are out there that are doing stuff like this. I've listened to Lex Friedman's podcast.
Right.
And a lot of this stuff, wow, I have no clue what the hell he's talking about. I'll be totally honest with you. Some of the stuff is way, way over my head, but I enjoy it because it's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that. To sit there and listen to people, talk about the same thing over and over and over again. Well,
yeah,
if you enjoy the same food and you enjoy eating it for the rest of your life, well, then I'm happy for you. But I like the smorgasbord, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
Yeah,
You got to keep learning, because it's one of those things where if you stop learning, then you stop growing, and if you stop growing, then you become sedentary, and not only in your ideas but also in your opinions as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, being stagnant is never good.
That's who we are, Bosch. That's who we are.
That's you, and that's what we're trying to change.
Well, and that's fine. Yeah. And like I said, if you guys ask me what you can do that would be the better, like I said, pick a topic individually and explain it. That's the way it is. I'm trying to remember the name of the physicist now. Can't remember his name.
Okay.
He was long past. Feynman. I forget his first name. Feynman went along and said it's simple. He says if you go along and you can't explain it in basic terms, and you don't understand the subject.
That's right. Yeah, it is.
So that's Richard Feynman. That's who it is.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. So you're asking, what can you do? If either one of you have a subject that you're very well versed in, talk it out amongst each other that doesn't know what's going on, to make everybody else more informed.
Interesting.
Yeah, but we're not exactly great educators, and I'm not very good at explaining stuff either.
So. Can't say that. You can learn anything. If you can learn stuff from me, trust me, then you guys have got a lot of stuff that you can teach.
That's because you explain it well.
Well, then it's come to us to explain it, to relay the message, right?
Absolutely. You know what? If you, like I said, there's the one thing I'm gonna say, this is sort of a parting shot, if you want to call it, because I don't want to drag you guys along anymore. But I'll give it to you this way. I said this to a younger fellow. We were working in central Canada, and we're working a little bit north, and he was part of one of the indigenous groups that are out there. And you were talking about, and we had a group of guys that he knew that were working with us on one. So he was sort of running the show, and went along, and him and I, we'd always go out for coffee on, I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. After it was all said and done, we go and have a cup of coffee after it was said, and then we go for dinner after that. And I went along and said to him, you know what? I said, you have to remember one thing. I said, these guys here look up to you. And he goes, oh yeah. I said, that's fine to be your friends, but I says, you're gonna have to remember one thing. 20 years down the road, and he was 28 at the time. I said, 20 years down the road, I said, you're getting to be 50. I said, you're going to start being an elder. So instead of you starting to sit there and understand things, I said, you're going to have to start teaching people. People are going to be looking towards you to sit there and teach them things, to help them understand things and make them, help them along the way in for information to make their life easier, because they don't have to do the same thing that you did to stumble along. It's the same sort of thing. In 20 years, and it's going to happen pretty fast for you guys.
Definitely.
In 20 years, you guys are going to have to start teaching people that are younger.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, because especially right now, from here on out too, we're growing older, and then
absolutely
by now we're at, how do I say this? Like, I want to say like the peak of the youth kind of thing. I think it's about time that we start learning how to relay, how to teach, and how to nurture, so to speak.
I think you just mean peak. We peaked, Bosch. This is our peak.
Nah, we still have a little bit more time, I'd say.
Yeah, like I said, that's why I said to you guys, time goes by pretty fast, and you suddenly realize, wow, where did everything happen? And where was I?
I know I'm going old, but I don't know when. And I was surprised when I did.
Yeah, pretty much.
Old is just a number. Yeah. That's all it is.
True.
It's what the mindset. It's what you think and how you do it.
That's right.
That's all.
Okay. Well, this is it for the podcast. That was a good chat with you, Mark.
Yeah, that was
your long-winded podcast.
No, it was good. It was great.
I haven't seen you in a while, and it's really nice talking to you again, after a long time. So
yeah, it's nice to hear a familiar voice again.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to be on. I really do.
Well,
And I
might call you
appreciate the
again.
fact that you guys were willing to listen to me sit there and pontificate. Well, I wouldn't say pontificate, but postulate my various opinions and ideas and everything else like that.
Hey, that's how we learn, Mark. That's how we learn. And we love every moment of it.
Fair enough.
So, you got any last sage advice before we end the podcast?
Don't do drugs, kids.
Well, there's that too. I wasn't gonna say that. Don't get old, and age is just a number. That's the
Right.
thing.
Okay.
All right.
Stay young in your mind and your heart,
Wow.
and don't let the bastards keep you down. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the moral of this podcast episode.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Bosch?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So thank you for being here, Mark, and we'll gladly have you back on again sometime in the future.
Alright
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right then.
Hey,
Shall we close it now?
Yeah. Do the outro, Bosch.
All right then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. This is Boschka,
This is Alex.
and that's our guest Mark. See you guys again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.